All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're dissecting a case that honestly defies belief. We're talking about the grim reality of an incredibly elaborate double murder plotted by a former IRS agent. It's a story completely wrapped in layers of manipulation, ultimate betrayal, and a deeply disturbing digital trap. We're going to look strictly at the facts, the timelines, and the court's final findings to figure out exactly how this dark scheme unfolded, and honestly, more importantly, how the justice system unraveled the whole thing.
To really grasp the gravity of this, we're actually going to start at the heavy, definitive end of the story. Listen to these chilling words from Judge Penny Asgarate. She stated that the cruelty and calculation in this case reflected something far deeper than just anger or impulse. She said it reflected pure evil. By starting right here, we establish the court's ultimate truth, kind of setting the stage before we walk backward through the evidence to see how on earth we arrived at such a devastating conclusion.
Section 1. A life behind bars, the ultimate sentence.
Okay, so state records show that on June 5, 2026, 40-year-old Brendan Banfield received his final judgment. The verdict? A mandatory life sentence in the penitentiary, entirely without the possibility of parole. And the judge made a point to note that she carried absolutely no burden and found zero hesitation in handing down this maximum sentence. Now, this life sentence stems from his February conviction for the 2023 double murder of two people. First, his wife, 37-year-old Christine Banfield, and second, 39-year-old Joseph Ryan, who is a complete stranger to the family. Both of their lives were taken right there at the Banfield's own home in Herndon, Virginia. Which brings us to the million-dollar question, right? Why? Let's start our forensic autopsy of this plot by digging into the very origins of the crime.
Section 2. The au pair affair, a calculated betrayal.
You really have to listen to the sheer juxtaposition between Banfield's defense and the actual established facts. In court, he defended his relationship with Christine. He's up there saying, "I loved her very much. Our marriage worked for us." He even claims she was a caring mother and a loving nurse. But then, while on the stand, he openly admits to having affairs with several women. And most notably, he admitted to an ongoing affair with the family's 25-year-old au pair, Juliana Perez Magalajes. And this right here brings us to the core motive that the prosecution laid out. The court found that this entire horrific scheme was birthed directly from that affair with the au pair. Banfield basically wanted to avoid a messy divorce. As you'll hear from the family's testimony later, going through a divorce would have required him to give up control. So instead of just walking away, he and his accomplice calculated a way to maintain absolute control. And that leads us to the darkest part of this whole plot.
Section 3. The Anastasia 9 trap, constructing a lure.
So according to the au pair's own testimony, this trap was set in three very distinct, calculated steps. First, they actually used Christine Banfield's personal laptop to create a fake user profile on a fetish website. They named this profile Anastasia 9, pretending to be Christine. Next, they used it to solicit a very violent sexual fantasy, specifically looking for a stranger to come into her home and act it out. And that stranger? That was Joseph Ryan. He was completely catfished. They turned an innocent man into an unwitting pawn in a deadly game.
Section 4. The Deadly Confrontation, February 24, 2023.
Let's walk through the factual timeline of the violence that actually played out inside that Herndon home. And this is based strictly on the evidence the jury saw. On the morning of February 24th, Joseph Ryan arrives at the house. He fully believes he's stepping into a consensual fantasy that was arranged online. But instead, absolute chaos ensues. Mid-morning, Christine Banfield is fatally stabbed. And then, mere moments later, Ryan is shot. The events of that morning ended with two people dead on the floor of the family home. Now, the crucial point to understand here is the massive conflict in the narratives they presented at trial. On one side, we have Banfield's claim. He literally called the prosecution's allegations absolutely crazy. He testified that he only used his service weapon to shoot Ryan because he supposedly saw Ryan stabbing his wife. He said, "I wanted him to let her go. I am not responsible for her death." But then, on the flip side, we have the au pair's testimony. Perez Magalajes blew the lid off the whole thing. She revealed the catfishing truth, that the entire event was a premeditated setup to stage a crime scene. And she admitted in court that she also shot Ryan.
Section 5. The court's findings. Dismantling the defense.
Well, spoiler alert, the jury did not buy Banfield's narrative for a second. Looking at the February trial, here are his specific convictions. Brendan Banfield was found guilty of 2 counts of aggravated murder, 1 count of using a firearm in committing a felony, and, absolutely crucially, child endangerment. We really have to note here that Banfield and Christine's own daughter was present in the house. She was put directly in harm's way during this meticulously planned plot.
As for the au pair, Juliana Perez Magalhaes, she initially faced charges of second-degree murder, but she ended up cooperating with authorities and became the star witness for the prosecution against Banfield. Because of that cooperation, and her testimony outlining the whole catfishing plot, she pleaded guilty to manslaughter and received a lesser sentence of 10 years in prison.
Section 6. The tragic aftermath, impact, and loss. At the sentencing, Christine Banfield's sister, Danielle, delivered this just heartbreaking impact statement. Crying at the podium, her voice trembling, she remembered Christine as a truly caring person. And then, looking directly at Banfield, she told him he could have just divorced her and moved on. But as she so eloquently put it, a divorce would have required relinquishing control. His actions weren't about love, they were driven by power, deception, and a complete disregard for the lives he was destroying. She also left him with a chilling reminder that his daughter will one day have to grow up and come to terms with the fact that her own father put her in danger.
We also heard from Joseph Ryan's mother, Deirdre Fisher, who had to appear virtually for medical reasons. Her words really cemented the harsh reality of this crime. She stated flat out that Banfield will forever be known as an abusive father, the brutal murderer of his compassionate wife, and a narcissistic killer of an innocent man. Think about that. Banfield used an innocent stranger's life merely as a prop to orchestrate his wife's murder. He destroyed 2 entire families in the process. You know, at his sentencing, Banfield actually complained that he was greatly disappointed in the legal system, which shows he's still clinging to his fabricated reality. But the evidence we've just covered tells the objective truth. It leaves us with a heavy thought. When the pursuit of absolute control costs innocent lives, what is the true price of deception? It's a question that really forces us to reflect on the dark lengths of human manipulation, and honestly, the vital role our courts play in bringing that darkness to light. Thanks for joining me for this explainer today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.